Welcome to Mysterious Universe, Season 34, Episode 18. Coming up on this show, we've got the Unseen War, getting slimed by Satan's minions, and a collection of Halloween horrors. I'm your host, Benjamin Grundy. Joining me is Aaron Wright.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to you. Our last Halloween of our illustrious career.
I know, well, at least in Mysterious Universe, but for it to actually fall on a recording day is really awesome.
It's serendipity, isn't it?
I think so.
I love Halloween.
Really? Or are you just
Not
being
really.
facetious? No, I didn't think so.
Not really.
It's not a big thing here in Australia.
No, and every show's like a Halloween show, kind of.
Yeah, that's true.
And I didn't plan to do a Halloween show, but once I got to the end of the day and I sort of did my notes and put everything together, I realized I've totally got a Halloween show.
Me too. I didn't do that on purpose either, but I ended up going down this path of basically stuff which is spooky kind of stuff. So I'm like, okay, it's Halloween special. We'll just go with that.
Have you got corny, like spooky, haunted cats?
The Grim Reaper. So it's about Halloween-y. So yeah, we'll go with that. What have you got?
I found one of these books. I thought it was going to be one of my favorites. Well, it's from my favorite genre. Mm-hmm. It's called Hidden Medicine. It's by Thomas McCormack. He's a medical doctor, psychiatrist. And it's the unseen war on your health and the spiritual prescription for healing that could transform healthcare.
Okay.
And so what I thought was this was going to be, again, one of my favorite genres of medical professional, like very down-to-earth medical professional, stumbles upon the reality of the unseen world and its denizens.
Yes.
And how they basically can destroy people's souls and health and everything else in between. And it is very much that. He's come forward and he's put his reputation on the line. He's got some incredible personal stories, which I want to share as well. But ultimately, what he's come up with is a system for treating the spirit. And he argues that traditionally, especially in the West, doctors are trained, medical professionals are trained to treat the body and the soul. And when I say soul, I mean emotions, the consciousness, the mind, that would be considered the soul.
Psychiatry.
Right. But he's saying there's a third element, which is clearly missing.
The spirit.
Which has major implications on the health of the individual, and that's spirit. And so he shares some of the experiences that's led him to this conclusion. But the whole point is he's developed a particular system. It's pretty much...
So when you say system, like what, a methodology for treatment or something?
Yeah. And it's a book very much geared for medical practitioners. But I wanted to talk about it because he has some insane experiences that, again, led him to this understanding. So we'll be going into that. Yeah, looking forward to doing a Halloween show. And when I say final Halloween show, we should reiterate that we're not going anywhere at the end of the show. Again, we are retiring from Mysterious Universe. We've got two amazing hosts lined up.
I love it that every time you speak to them, that you get more excited about them coming on. They're already planning stuff.
They're just so pumped.
Yeah, it's great.
They've got like that 2008 Ben and Aaron energy.
Yeah, right.
That died in us in
like a year later
2016.
For me.
Yeah, they've got this incredible energy. They can't wait to do the show. We're sending them a lot of our old library as well. So there's going to be stuff
We're shipping that whole library.
There's going to be stuff we haven't even looked at that they're going to dive into and find. So yeah, we'll announce exactly who the new hosts are in the coming weeks. But our final show for this year is going to be like mid-December, isn't it?
No, even earlier than that. I think it's 5th of December is our last show.
Is it?
Yeah,
or is it
you and me. The 9th?
To be announced.
Either way.
To be announced.
The guys are coming in before the end of the year,
yeah,
so you get used to them.
The new guys are going to come in and finish the year. It's just a couple of weeks before the Christmas break. They're going to do a few shows. And then we're hoping to be back either in late January or early February for our new show.
Probably mid-February with just my timing and tracking at the moment. So just because I'm moving.
So Aaron's got a lot of stuff juggling around in the air.
Out of the country. So
yeah, right.
So it's very complicated and difficult.
We don't even know what language you're going to need to learn.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
So you have to brush up on your Persian.
Maybe. Spanish,
perhaps. Or your Urdu.
Urdu. Yeah, that could work.
What's the Eskimo language?
I have no idea.
What's the Filipino language?
Tagalog.
Yeah, you got to learn your Tagalog.
That could work. Yeah.
Don't be one of those Australians that moves to Bali.
I'm not going to Bali, don't worry.
Such a cliche.
No. Maybe Singapore, but we'll see what happens. Not Bali.
But our new show, we have a name. It's called Inescapable.
Because this is inescapable.
Everything is inescapable.
Is inescapable.
Podcasting with you is inescapable.
Yep.
Listening to us, inescapable.
Yep. Yep, we're always like, we live rent-free in your head even if you hate us.
That's
so
right.
It's completely inescapable.
All the forces of this world, inescapable.
Yep.
Mass immigration, high crime rates, inescapable. Doesn't matter what language you got to
The
learn.
Dharma ending period at the end of the Yuga cycle, inescapable.
The apocalypse,
Yep.
inescapable. So we thought, why not just call it Inescapable?
Yep.
So that's the name of the show. It's Inescapable. Happy to announce it here today.
Look, we really did want to do Brunch with the Boys, but, Inescapable.
It's taken. And when I did a deeper search.
I don't really mean that.
When I did a deeper search, there's like 5 shows called Brunch with the Boys.
Of course there is. Yeah.
So as good as that name was, it wasn't meant to be. So yeah, just to reiterate, we're going to finish at the end of this year. The new guys are going to take over. The show is just going to get better and better because, again, that new energy is coming in. And you're going to love the new guys. They're really switched on. They love the topics.
I get it that people don't like change. A couple of people have contacted me privately and said, I'm really going to miss you guys. I'm like, hey, but that's cool. Like, that's change.
Totally understand that.
Yeah, totally. I get it. I understand. But give them a chance. Like, I know that change is, like, always uncomfortable. Give the guys a chance because I reckon after a show or two, you'll be straight back.
Yeah, give them a chance and also stick around for us in February when we return for our new show because we're going to have that new energy again. Like a new show means new energy.
Yeah.
New hosts mean new energy. So I feel like 2026 is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think
for everyone.
Yeah.
For you listening as well. So yeah, keep your ears pinned on that. And remember, if you sign up for Plus before the end of the year, you'll get access to all the new stuff.
That new show as
You'll
well.
get the new show and continue your Mysterious Universe membership. So it's really worth it. You're going to get basically a double membership for the same price. We don't know what's going to happen after that, whether we keep doing that. It might be for a limited time. But yeah, you definitely want to stay signed up for Plus so you can keep getting both shows, the new MU and our new show. So with that out of the way, and we'll have dates on when all that's going to happen in the coming weeks. Yeah, let's talk about this new book, Hidden Medicine, Thomas McCormack. It's really interesting because, again, you see this time and time again with these medical practitioners. They come across this spiritual reality that's behind or connected to
consistently
a lot of maladies.
And a lot of people that have those experiences just don't talk about it because they're fearful of what will happen from their colleagues.
And he starts off with a personal story. He was in Nicaragua, of all places.
Right.
And I think he was on holiday with his wife and kids. He's got 3 small kids. And they had rented this upscale apartment to stay on their holiday. And he said the morning they checked in, they were freaked out. It was a bit eerie because, first of all, there was giant walls with barbed wire surrounding the entire place. And you would think for that part of the world, that's probably normal. But there were also these paintings everywhere throughout the property, like going up the staircase, in the entryway, in every bedroom. There were these paintings of this small boy. And they just thought it was creepy. Just everywhere. There were paintings
all the same.
of this kid.
Was the small boy in like different scenes?
Yeah, different scenes. So different paintings of this young boy, maybe 3 or 4 years old. And when they asked the agent, what's the deal with all these paintings? Because there was nothing else. It was just this kid. They said, the owners, they had a son and he tragically passed away. He died. And the owner commissioned all these paintings to memorize him.
I get that. Yeah, grief is powerful.
Which is fair enough. But if you don't know the family or the kid, it's just this paintings of a dead kid everywhere. So anyway, they're trying to enjoy their holiday. And that night, he's up late reading in bed. Everyone else is asleep. And the kids have their own room. And he hears this huge smash, like this unearthly smash. And it's coming from outside the kid's bedroom window. And he looks outside. He can't see anyone, can't see anything. And it's a perfectly still night. There's no wind or anything. So he's like, what is that? So he tentatively goes outside, creeps outside with the torch, tries to find out what the hell it was. And he sees that this huge concrete planter has somehow just tipped over and smashed in the middle of the night, like this 3-foot tall thing, directly outside the kid's window. And he sees their heads poking out like they're terrified. What is going on in this creepy house, Dad? He's like, don't worry about it. Something's knocked this over. It's just accidentally tipped over. Go back to bed. So they go back to bed and he stays up reading. He said his wife didn't even wake up. And he says 15 minutes later, he hears something on the tin roof above the bedroom, followed by footsteps. And he says it sounds like a large animal. Then clawing starts, this clawing sound, scraping on the roof. He says, for 5 minutes straight, I listened to something pouncing on the tin roof, followed by high-pitched scratching sounds. Then it changed. He said he heard what sounded like a dozen fists pummeling the roof just above his bed.
This sounds rather poltergeist.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And his first thought is that it's either a pack of wild animals, or there's intruders and they're there to rob them, or worse. Now, he said his wife woke up at this point and she's absolutely terrified. Like, what the hell is this horrendous noise? And if you've ever heard something on a tin roof...
Oh, it's completely amplified.
It totally amplifies the sound. Like, when I was a teenager, we were waiting for our house to be built and we lived in a converted barn with like a very shallow tin roof.
Is this on the New South Wales, like South Coast kind of area?
Yeah, down in Barrow.
So let me guess, there's like wombats and kangaroos and
Well, I just woke up at 3 a.m. thinking there was a demon ready to attack me because it was like bang, 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 and this horrible scream. It was like a possum about this big. Got a tiny little possum that some guy had to come and catch for us. But it just sounded horrendous. I was so scared. And so they're obviously terrified. He said, I began praying aloud. And almost immediately I ended the prayer with, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave now. He said as soon as he said that, there was a massive crack of thunder. And then the sound just completely disappeared. Like it was never there.
That's a little bit too convenient.
He said, still petrified, I grabbed the walking stick in the corner of the room, stepped outside, and there's nothing. He checks the roof. There's nothing there. There's no sign of any animals. There's no sign of anything being up there. And it sounded like they'd seriously broken it, like pummeled in the tin roof.
Is he religious, or did he just kind of didn't know what to do, so that's what he went with?
Well, he says, to this day, I have no scientific rationale for what that was, what happened, why it ended so suddenly when I said a prayer. But he does go into that background of how he arrived at this point where he would say a prayer. So he grew up always wanting to be a doctor, just always knew he was going to be a doctor. And he studied hard in school. He got sick when he was in his late teens, and his GP, what's it called, GPA?
Yeah, GPA.
His GPA dropped, and he had to work really hard to get it back up to 4 or something.
Yep.
Which he managed to do, and he thought, great, my grades are good. I'm going to get into one of these medical schools. So he does the usual thing where he applies for all the medical schools. And the unthinkable happens. He gets rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection letter.
Is there a reason for that?
He doesn't go into details. Maybe it was his grades. Maybe it was like missing extracurricular stuff.
Yeah.
Who knows? But he tells the story of opening a letter he got in the mailbox. And this was really his last chance. Like every spot that he had applied for had been rejected. And he's like, there's one chance left at my like bottom choice school. And he gets this letter out of the mailbox and it's a rejection letter.
Oh.
And he's standing outside walking his dog, and he doesn't want to go inside because his parents are still inside, and he doesn't even want to think about their reaction. He's so upset because, again, he's like, I knew I was going to be a doctor from as soon as I could think about what a doctor was. That's what I wanted to be. And he said, I hadn't walked very far. He decides to just walk around the neighborhood with his dog to try and calm down. But then he said, I stopped suddenly in the middle of the street, and I was hurt, confused, and genuinely perplexed about why this had happened. And he said, out of desperation, I turned to God. And you would think this would be like a pious kind of moment of humility, but it's not. He's pissed. He's like angry. And he starts swearing at God. He's like, what the hell? Like, how could you let this happen? I've worked my entire life and you're going to take this from me? Really? I earned this. This is mine. How dare you? He's like, I don't even believe in you anymore.
See, though, another person would probably be like, well, God is not wanting this for me, or I'm being challenged to find another way.
Right.
Like getting angry about it is not the way.
He does say, even though he was raised in the church, he was very much like, he was an arrogant young man, like full of confidence and just very arrogant. And he started to demand things of God. He's like, you got to show yourself to me right now. I need proof right now. He's like, I don't need you to get me into school, but I need you to show me that you're real right now. And he says in the book, like looking back on it, it's a bit cringe the way I behaved.
But young men are like that. We're all like that, so I get it.
He said he didn't actually expect a response, but immediately he starts to feel this hug. Like arms go around him. This unseen presence, he said. And he said it felt like time stood still. There was this inexplicable feeling of peace that permeated the air around me. But what happened next really blew my mind, he said. Unseen arms wrapped around me, tightly pulling me towards an invisible bosom. I was enveloped by indescribable peace and love. I felt a reassurance that all was well, everything was going to be fine despite my tribulations. I was overwhelmed. He said, I don't know how else to explain it except to say that it was truth without any doubt in my mind whatsoever. And it was just this incredible embrace. He felt it. He experienced it. Everything about it was incredible, beyond measure, he said.
He motorboated God. We get it.
So when he motorboated, that's blasphemy. On Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween. God.
When he arrived home, he opens up to his parents. He tells them, I got another rejection letter. That's it. I'm not going to make it. He doesn't tell them about the experience. And his parents are like ranting and raving. His mother's like, we've got to do something about it. I'm going to write letters. And she's like, action mode. We got to get it. We've got to pull some strings. And his dad just looks at him and says, what's wrong with you? Why are you so calm about this? And he's just chilled. He's just experienced God's embrace. He's just totally chilled. And so, and what ends up happening is his mother calls some other medical school. She happens to know the dean, like they're old friends.
Right. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Pulls strings, and the dean agrees to have a meeting with him. The dean says, I can't promise you an admission, but I'll at least sit down with you and hear about your situation. And so his mother's like, this is your last chance. You got to make this count. So on the day he's going to drive and meet the dean, he's dressed up in his Sunday best. He's got his suit on, and he's got to drive like 90 minutes to go meet the guy. But he says, something in my mind was telling me to just chill. And his mother's like super nervous, wound up, like, why aren't you leaving? Get going. You got to beat the traffic. And he's just chilled out on the couch. He said something, and I don't know what it was. Something told me I just needed to wait a little bit. I just needed to chill. I wasn't meant to go straight away. And eventually he looks at the time and he's like, okay, I really actually need to go. And just as he's walking out the door, the telephone rings. And his mother answers it, and her face is like, oh. She's like, it's for you. She hands him the phone, and it's the dean of a different school, one that was on his list, that he was placed on a wait list for, which he thought was never going to happen because no one ever gets off the wait list. And this dean is saying, I'm just willing to know if you want your name removed from the waiting list and officially given a position at our school because, someone's dropped out or something. He's just like, absolutely, yes sir. So that locks him in, and he finally gets into medical school after having this super tantrum and being embraced by God.
But I almost feel like that counters like the teachings of church, right? Like you having a tantrum and then getting what you want is kind of like the opposite of like having faith in God and...
Well, it's because he realized...
Being humble.
He was humbled. Like he was humbled by the experience.
Right.
And he realized he was just being an arrogant prick.
Yeah.
And he needed to trust in the plan. And so today he's a physician. Ultimately, he went into psychiatry because he felt that better answered the questions he had after this experience, the spiritual experience.
But I can see how he would now be even unconsciously, primed to detect maybe more spiritual things.
Well, now it's like he's seen it so many times. This is what he says.
In his practice.
Yeah. He says, as a physician, I've seen many instances in which sickness either does not have the typical presentation or does not follow the typical course of a known disease or disorder. Some of these unusual cases also do not respond to normally effective, well-established medical treatments. He says often doctors do not know what to make of these puzzling cases, and as a last resort, they often get referred to him as a psychiatrist. But again, he talks about this missing component. Body, soul is treated, but spirit is not. Clinicians are trained on the first two, but not the latter. And yeah, his main drive is that this is key to the true health. Again, like a holistic approach to the individual, it's definitely missing. So he's got two main goals with this book. The first is to awaken you to the realities, he says, of the spiritual realm, specifically equipping you to fight unseen battles with malevolent forces. He said his second goal applies to the medical community. He says, it's my opinion that physicians and other healthcare providers must be taught and trained to incorporate spiritual realities into their medical practices. While the world's 5 major religions, he mentions Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism, they differ in significant ways. He says they still share many of the same spiritual principles, beginning with the belief that the spiritual realm exists and is essential to one's health. So again, I thought, okay, this is going to be one of these clinicians, one of these physicians going into this.
Are you thinking like Edith Fiore kind of stuff?
Yeah. Very explicitly, he's going to find cases of, he's a psychiatrist, so he's going to come across people who are possessed by entities.
Yep.
Like one of my favorite genres, right? And he talks about the door, he talks about the doors that open you up to this. So he mentions alcohol, drug abuse, trauma,
sexual abuse.
Yeah, sex, porn. He says the occult is a big one of our favorites. So I'm like, okay, here we go. And he starts to share some stories. So one of the first things he talks about is when he was still training as a doctor, he heard a story from a state trooper. And he said back then they didn't have the body cams they have today.
Sure.
Like today you look at the body cam footage and you're like, yeah, that guy's possessed by a demon. Like it's obvious. But he said back then you just had stories and rumors of what people told you. And there was a state trooper who said he had a suspect who was high on PCP. This guy came towards the trooper with a knife. They told him to stand down. He wouldn't. They ended up shooting him at close range with a shotgun 6 times before he finally stopped.
Yeah, they keep going. PCP, from some of the stories I've heard, people think meth is bad, and it is. Like, it's horrendously bad. But yeah, the stories of PCP, they just keep going.
Yeah.
It's like, how? There almost feels like there must be a supernatural element to it.
Well, when McCormack heard this story, he thought, well, yeah, I mean, PCP is like an anesthetic. So he's just not feeling it. Big deal. There's nothing supernatural going on. He said that's what he thought until it happened to him a few months later. So this is in the 1990s. He's at Duke University Medical Center in the emergency department. This is in Durham in North Carolina. And he said, while on call one night, I was awakened at 2 a.m. and asked to see a drug-intoxicated patient who had been brought in by the police. He said by the time he arrives, the guy is restrained, but he's just yelling incoherently. He's like strapped up. He's like, just going crazy, right? Thrashing about, trying to get out of his restraints. And so immediately McCormack, he orders one of these intramuscular injections. Mm-hmm. And it's it's called haloperidol.
Oh, I haven't heard of it.
It's meant to be an antipsychotic.
Right, okay. Is it like a suppressant as well?
Yeah, it's a sedative. Right. So it's meant to calm him down at least. And usually one shot, they're totally calm. They're out of it. They can talk to you without flipping out. They give him a shot. It does nothing. He's still like, still freaking out. They give him another shot. Nothing. He's still freaking out. He's still like foaming at the mouth, screaming at him, trying to get out of his restraints. They give him another shot.
Jeez, you must have a high tolerance for it.
This is over an hour. It's not like 3 shots at once.
Yeah, but still.
And still, he's just complete. But by the 3rd shot, he had started to calm down, this guy. They said normally the large doses he would given would put a patient to sleep, but all they did was like slightly calm this guy so that McCormack could enter the room and converse with him.
Right.
So he goes on in and he said, I can't remember exactly what the guy said to me, but it was just delusional nonsense, like just gobbledygook. He said, I spoke with the arresting officer. It had taken 6 officers and a stun gun to subdue the guy. He said, I made the decision to admit him to the psychiatric ward for detoxification and treatment for his obvious psychosis. He said, I'll never forget what happened next. He said, I've rarely spoken about it since this happened. He said, a young nurse and I went into the room with this patient to determine if he was calm enough to be released from his restraints for his transfer to the next ward.
Which is no doubt locked.
Yeah, so they explained to him, look, you're going to the next hospital and you're going to go as soon as we can get you out of these restraints, okay? And by this stage, he's listening and he nods and he's just like, okay. So it's like, all right, he's calmed down, he's out of it. So because he's calm now, they undo his restraints and they said slowly, almost methodically, he sits up on the stretcher, and they said for a brief moment, he looked at them both as if he was sizing them up. And then this creepy grin just slowly appears on his face. He's like, and he bolts to the opposite side of the room and runs up the wall like Spider-Man. And he said he perched there against gravity in the corner of the room, like the top corner of the room, like just holding himself on the wall, looking back at them with this look of defiance. Now, he said he and the young nurse just freaked out, like they ran out the door. They started screaming for help. A security guard and 2 techs rush into the room, but all of a sudden he's sitting back on the stretcher with his legs crossed, smiling.
It really does sound like a scene out of The Exorcist.
Yeah. Like, obviously, physics-defying, defies all rationality, all scientific explanation. He was just like Spider-Man.
Even with people taking certain drugs, and it causes your body to overcome like the muscle contraction capabilities we have. A really good example is like, so your muscle fibers kind of working together to strengthen up. There's a physiological limit that you have so that you don't damage the muscle fiber.
Yeah.
When you take drugs, that inhibition is gone. And so that's why people that are on meth and PCP, they're extremely strong. Like they display almost, as you said before, like 6 officers required to, subdue him. But you don't defy gravity.
Right.
You don't cling to walls. Like that sort of stuff, that's not, pushing your body. That's something else entirely.
And obviously he says, I have no explanation for what we saw that day. There's nothing that could... There's no explanation that you could say, well, there was a texture on the wall or he had a handhold. No, he's just clinging to a bare wall. A more recent example, he says he had a middle-aged woman who had been seeking treatment by psychotherapists and psychiatrists for years. She had a history of trauma that had been unfortunately unaddressed because it was so difficult. In childhood, she'd been abandoned by her father and then abused by her brother, sexually abused.
Awful.
So she had this obviously post-traumatic stress disorder, severe and persistent depression. She had multiple medication trials. She had psychotherapy. She had electroconvulsive therapy.
Well, that's pretty extreme.
Transcranial magnetic stimulation, even an implantation in her vagus nerve to stimulate her vagus nerve. Nothing worked. Her marriage had broken down. She'd lost her husband, lost her child. During one of their visits, he said her moods were unusually erratic. She started off angrily confronting him about why none of the treatments seemed to be very effective. Now, McCormack, he shares the frustration. He's like, I'm not going to give up. I know that you've gone through a lot, but we're going to try something else. And she just started sobbing uncontrollably.
Well, what's left, though, after you've done all that?
I know.
You do ECT and inpatient care. It's like you've really had nothing else left.
She's clearly in utter despair. And he said, I felt there was nothing further I could say to comfort her. So he's just decided to sit there and just sort of console her while she's crying. But he said also in his mind, he silently started to pray for her. Nothing out loud, just in his mind. As soon as he did this, he said her demeanor, her posture, everything about the scenario rapidly changed, instantly changed. She went from uncontrollably crying with her face buried in her hands to abruptly sitting up straight, more agitated and belligerent than he'd ever seen before. And then he watches...
Like something was irritated with her?
Well, he watches as she slowly turns her head to stare at him with these crazy eyes. And he said immediately they were different eyes.
It
wasn't her eyes.
Yeah.
And then she started to speak. And he's like...
Not her voice?
It's clearly not her voice.
Yeah.
Because the voice that came out was like, stop. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. This deep, creepy voice. And he said her stare was piercing, cold, menacing.
Is this one of the first times that he's experienced an actual, what appears to be a contact?
Yes.
Because before with the guy crawling up the wall, he didn't really contact anything.
No, this is the first moment. And he said whatever was speaking, it did not seem to be my sweet but troubled patient. I immediately felt I was in the presence of something supernatural and potentially evil. And he says, Carrie, what in the name of Jesus is going on? And he actually used that on purpose. He said Jesus on purpose. He had this feeling that it would be required. And immediately this woman, he said she like slithered off the couch. She just went like limp and went blah, blah, blah. Just like in one weird movement like a snake, just went and slithered off the couch. And she just starts like rolling around on the floor with this guttural growl and just like writhing and almost as if she's in pain, like she's having some kind of seizure. He said, I moved closer to examine her, make sure she's okay. Suddenly, she sat up and lunged at me, he said, grabbing and breaking my glasses and scratching me in the process. Now, he said the entire episode of her, like we would say, clearly being possessed.
He probably wouldn't be familiar with that, though.
No, he's not thinking that at all. It didn't last long. She crawled back onto the couch and she just kind of slumps over. And when he like shakes her and gets her to come to, she's like, she has no memory of what's just happened.
Because it wasn't her.
Exactly. She has no idea. So I was like, okay, there's two incredible experiences here. And since he's been at this for decades, like this is going to be full of all these cases. And he says, while these phenomena are rarely discussed in professional circles and even less commonly in public, I've experienced so many other examples in my 28-year career that space does not allow me to elaborate in this context.
What?
And I was like, okay, but you're going to tell us more of these amazing cases, right? No. I realized, he literally meant that he doesn't have space.
But it's two stories.
And that's it.
That's it.
The rest, no, well, obviously it's a large book. It's like 350 pages. But the rest is him really talking about, well, his Christian faith, which is fine. Like he's going through his justification for why he believes these things and it's based on his Christian faith. And then giving sort of a philosophy lecture about demonology and where these entities come from and their purpose and what they're trying to do to human beings. All good stuff. Like,
but it's not show content.
But I feel like writing him an email and going, Sir, do you realize I have a podcast to do? Sir, Mr. McCormack, Dr. McCormack, I have
all stories.
I have stories to tell, sir. I've got another at least 40 minutes to fill. I'm not going to do that with two of your admittedly excellent stories. But I kept on reading. I read through the whole thing. And he goes through his process and his system, which is very similar to, he calls it...
Is it integrated family, whatever it is?
Ruachiatry.
Oh, I haven't heard of it.
Ruachiatry. And Ruach's like a Hebrew word that means spirit. And then he uses the Greek iatreia, which means healing. So it's like spirit healing, but using the Hebrew word. And I didn't spend a lot of time reading about the system, but from what I could gather, it's similar to Alcoholics Anonymous, where it's like steps.
Okay.
It's like a step process that the practitioner and the patient go through to treat the spirit and this, what we would just call some kind of demonic oppression or spirit possession. But I was like, dude, you're killing me here. Who quite literally doesn't have space. What are you talking about? Where are my stories? So I needed a backup.
So you bailed.
I found my boy. There he is. Got him on the screen there.
He seems familiar. Who is this?
Stephen Rossetti, the American Exorcist.
Oh, okay. That's why.
To the rescue on our last Halloween special of 2025. He wrote the book, My Confrontation with Hell, Real Demonic Encounters of an Exorcist. And this was only published recently. It came out kind of midway this year. And it's full of some bangers. Yeah, full of some bangers. So he's an American exorcist. He's been practicing for 20 plus years. He talks about being slimed pretty early on.
What do you mean slimed by?
Well, obviously it's like the Ghostbusters reference.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, is someone he's exorcising, do they vomit on him or something?
He says if you're an exorcist, you get slimed all the time. And it doesn't mean literally you're covered in green slime from Ghostbusters.
Oh, that's a bit of a letdown.
But it's like a psychic slime. Like you feel, he says it's hard to explain, and often it happens to the new priests that often assist or want to become exorcists themselves. When they encounter like a real serious case, they'll often get slimed.
So is it almost like the energy is clinging to you?
Yeah, it's like you feel like you want to get it off, but you can't.
Well, this is something that comes up, and you and I have noticed this over the years though, but it's like People that don't have a framework to it. So, like people that aren't shamans, but they've got some, new age program and they're dealing with horse Reiki energy healing or something. And they're wondering where their lives are falling apart because they're contracting the energetic spirits from their patients.
That scenario you just painted is almost literally word for word at the back of this book. And I want to tell you that story. That's why I love this book, because it's got like a horse Reiki in the mountains.
Perfect.
White lady possession kind of story.
Ooh.
But yeah, it's this slimed where you feel like there's this kind of residue.
Like, get it off.
This spiritual residue, and you just want to have a bath, but it takes a while to get rid of it. He then talks about what often happens with the people they deal with, whether he calls it demon brain. And this is where slowly over time, the person that is being oppressed by these entities starts to think repeatedly things like, you're a terrible person. I'm a terrible person. There's no hope for me. They'll think God doesn't care about me. I'm owned by this demonic entity. They'll never leave me alone. I'm destined for hell, they'll say, or I should probably kill myself. This is never going to get better. And these patterns emerge time and time and time again.
Septum rings.
Yeah, and septum rings. They call it demon brain. And then he says, based on our experience, those who suffer from demonic afflictions, we might identify 7 common signs of the evil one's hidden presence. So let me go through the list, just in case you at home are feeling any of these. Any kind of lethargy or fatigue, Aaron.
So pretty much everyone in 2025.
Headaches and nausea.
Most people, I would say, get those occasionally.
Awful sick feeling in the entire body.
Probably rarer, but yeah, I mean, we've all had that from time to time.
I got this horrible mattress at home. That's like every morning, dude. Every morning I'm like, why did I buy this mattress? Just, tick, awful sick feeling in the entire body. Exaggerated anger and bursts of rage. Yep.
Have you driven in our traffic recently?
When the kids leave their watermelon rinds on the couch, like every day.
Yeah,
that's when I let the demons in. Just like, evil spirits of division, distrust, and conflict. Negative mental self-messages, aka demon brain. Exaggerated sexual temptations and intrusive blasphemous thoughts.
Why are you pointing at me?
You've already said blasphemous things on this show.
It's true, actually.
So 1 out of 2.
It's true. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
And then he talks about, it's just very short case histories. He doesn't go into a lot of detail. The details are in the stories I'll tell in a moment. But it's full of these little case histories. Like, he talks about financial curses. And one of these guys who had been afflicted messaged him, emailed him, and said, look, I own my own business. Large amounts of money come through, but I can never keep any of it. He says, if it looks like we'll have a little profit from a job, always something unexpected occurs. Something breaks down. Something goes wrong. A vehicle dies or an air conditioner breaks. It's something that never had a problem before. He says, recently a customer wanted to pay their final payment with a credit card. He says, I have 3 different credit card payment processors, and they all failed. I couldn't take the money. He said, the attack I'm undergoing feels like some kind of curse or a spell. I just can't get ahead. Now, straight away, he says, obviously, there's people that are bad with money.
Sure, yeah.
And they need financial advice, not an exorcist. But he says, there's a few of these that come through where you think there's a certain pattern that goes beyond, and these individuals are good with money. They are financially responsible individuals.
They still have a run of bad luck.
They've run businesses for years. But yes, this string of bad luck that just seems almost supernatural. He said a young family came with a similar story. The father had a good job with the government and was fiscally responsible, but the family was constantly broke due to an absolutely bizarre, never-ending series of financial setbacks. He said it was more than a case of bad luck. Like the above businessman, this man felt like he was financially cursed. And the third example he gives, I wanted to mention this because I think we would find this familiar with the stories we cover. Same thing. This guy had a bunch of financial setbacks, string of bad luck constantly, like things breaking, everything going wrong. But in the midst of this, he said, around the home and around the business, we would always find pennies and dimes.
That's weird.
in the weirdest places. He said sometimes he would just find one in his pocket with no idea how it got there. And he said about once a week, I'd find a dime in my left pocket. We've been struggling financially, barely making enough to eat. And so obviously he got this situation. Imagine like he's having a conversation with his wife, like, I don't know how we're going to do this, honey. I don't know how we're going to pay for the bills this month, how I'm going to put food on the table. Like we need something. We need help. And he reaches into his pocket and there's a penny. That's pure gaslighting.
Yeah.
Like that's pure taunting. They desperately need something to go right. And all these pennies are showing up. Now, he says these strange cases are a bit over the top and one suspects evil is directly involved. But again, like short little stories, not much more than that. But we hear that from poltergeist accounts all the time.
Yeah, we do.
The pennies being thrown, weird coins appearing out of nowhere. It's kind of the signature phenomenon of it. He talks about being attacked by witches all the time. He said...
what does he mean, witches?
Like witch covens attack him because he has a social media presence. He does social media videos. He says you'll get these Wiccans on, TikTok and YouTube that literally curse him. They'll do curses, get his picture out, incorporate what he says into their spells. He said, interestingly enough, in one of our exorcism cases, one of the demons identified itself as Hecate, which is the ancient Greek goddess of magic. And it's interesting because Hecate is often said to be one of the identities of the white goddess.
Oh, God.
That's the form that she took in an ancient time.
Mm-hmm.
But he claims he gets physically attacked.
Sure. I mean, plenty of exorcists have described this, that they physically get attacked. And you'll see there'll be photographs of, scratches or lesions on their body after attempting to perform, a certain session.
He said this happened a few nights ago. I was awakened abruptly and I was being attacked. It felt like dozens of fists jumping on me, pummeling me. He said, in an instance, I had a spiritual vision. I saw the witch's coven that was cursing me. There were about 5 to 8 of them, all white, middle-aged women. Aaron's rolling his eyes. I saw one woman who appeared to be their leader, white hair, Anglo, and a little plump. He's surprised. I'm actually surprised that that's all she looked like.
Well, yeah.
Why is her hair not purple?
I was going to say purple hair or blue hair, septum ring.
Well, these covens aren't even trying anymore.
No.
Nothing in you, no metal in the face? What, are you even a real witch casting a spell? Like, do you even hate Donald Trump enough? What's wrong with you? I instantly started to pray an exorcism prayer, he said. Within a couple of minutes, the demons departed. But he said, then I felt the slime of their curses that was still on me. And he basically he says he has to pray to get it off. And I love this idea, just like, get it off me. And he said he just fell fast asleep after that. He says, what's the point of this? He says, well, first, witches' curses are real. Some have criticized me for saying witches have power. However, it is my clear and repeated experience, he says, that real witches, not the dabblers, do command spiritual power. And in fact, he says they can do anything a demon can do, and that's because all their power comes from demons.
Yeah.
They themselves are possessed. They might not even know it. They might think they have control of these spirits, but in fact, they're being used, they're tools, they're instruments. He has a great story that leads into a bigger topic when he talks about a particular exorcism they did of this young woman. And he said one of the team members noticed that the entity that was possessing this woman responded very harshly to a particular, when he did the Litany of Saints, and it's a particular prayer. He says they usually do it at the start of an exorcism. It's like a small thing at the start, and then they move on to more powerful things. But he said they mentioned some of the saints, and this woman just started writhing and screaming and like really whatever this entity was, it was really responding, saying, not this name, not this name. And so they switched it up. They started doing this Litany of Saints prayer more focusedly, and they did it for longer in this exorcism. Now, it just turned out that the exorcist that was doing this had a bunch of relics with him as well, like relics of the saints. So they have these reliquaries, which are containers of the relics, and inside might be, for example, like a piece of bone from, Saint Benedict or whatever. I don't know the details of the Catholic saints. But he would place them, the relics or the reliquary, on the woman that's being exorcised. And again, these demons would scream and shout and say no. And he just tells this story about how during this invocation, they had St. Patrick, St. Rose of Lima, St. Margaret, St. Teresa, and St. Catherine and more come through in this exorcism. And he believes these saints assisted in helping this woman. And the demons started to leave. Now, many of the exorcisms he describes take 3 days at least before there's any budge, before anything starts to leave.
Well, I'd imagine if someone has gotten to the point of being possessed by something, it must have taken, an amount of time. So it would take probably equal to or more to remove it.
Some of the cases I'm going to mention in a moment take 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
How do you get exercised for 5 years?
Well, that's the case that involves the lady. And he's very explicit about how difficult she is to remove. So I'll go into that in a moment. But after day 3, this woman, this peace came over her. She stopped writhing. And he says that when entities start to leave, like weird stuff starts to come out of them.
You mean fluids?
Like fluids, this weird white foam, like they'll foam at the mouth. Sometimes these balls, he calls them, I asked you what the word was
Not
today.
like bezoars or whatever it was. Or
Boludes or something. I've got it later.
Yeah.
Like I looked it up because I didn't know what it was, but it's basically like balls of fluid and fatty bits of stuff that comes out of them. Like it's totally disgusting, dude. I'd rather be slimed. But this peace comes over the woman. She comes back to herself. She's her again, and she says, it's over. She said that a great weight had been lifted. These entities were gone. An initial subsequent discernment confirmed that the demonic possession had in fact ended for her. But the story doesn't end there, they say. No doubt, these entities were enraged to be cast out by the saints, and a few days later they had their revenge. Shortly thereafter, another of our exorcists, who is also the pastor of a parish, displayed a handful of relics of the saints for veneration at his church. And this is something that he's done for years. He does it every November. And he's, something they do when they venerate all the saints. But this particular year, the relics were stolen. All the relics were stolen, every single one. And they had security cameras. And he said they watched the footage and it was utterly bizarre. This woman showed up in a dark coat, kind of concealing her face, and sat in front of the relics in the church for quite a bit of time, like maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Then she got up to approach the relics and the camera system failed. It failed for exactly, what did he say, 5.5 minutes. The camera came back on. She was gone and all the reliquaries were still there. But the next time the priest went to use one of the actual relics inside the containers, he discovered all the relics were gone. They'd all been stolen.
So in the time that the camera was out, she somehow had opened up those containers?
Yeah.
But obviously then she must have covered her face well enough that in that time that she was caught on film, they didn't get her face?
Yeah, they never caught her. And he says they're still trying to track them down. But they believe this leads into a bigger topic where they believe that some people are kind of, they call them agents of Satan.
Yeah.
They're minions. That's the term they use. And they claim that this is not a normal theft. It's not a normal theft from the church, primarily because they didn't take the reliquaries, the containers. And these are quite elaborate. Like they've got gold trim, they've got nice designs on them.
Because they're not after that.
It's the Catholic Church. Like they've got these nice fancy things to hold the relics in. But the thief wasn't interested in taking those. They just wanted, the toenail or the piece of bone or the hair from a saint, whatever it is, the dried blood. That was the only thing that was stolen. So this leads to this discussion on the agents of the Dark One. And he tells a story about Angela. Angela was going in for exorcism. She had this consistent problem. They claim she was possessed. And she would often go into the church and pray. She said it helped tremendously. And while Angela was sitting in the pews waiting for the Sunday Mass to begin, this middle-aged woman came into the church and sat behind her. She kind of glanced and looked at her and, didn't recognize her, hadn't seen her before. But after a few moments, this woman leans forward and starts whispering to Angela. And she says, just give up. There's no point resisting. You need to give up. This is not going to go away. You need to give up. Stands up and walks out before Mass begins. Now, other people saw her. Angela had never met this woman. Other people had never seen this woman before. She'd never been, to anyone's knowledge, to the church before. And there's no earthly reason, he says, why this person would know that Angela was going through an exorcism. It's not something you advertise to people. You might tell your mother or your father or your loved ones, someone really close to you, but even then, it's
most people do it by themselves.
You would imagine it's deeply shameful to be going through something like that. Not something you would share at all. So how did this woman know? And he says in the last few years, we've had numerous instances of human beings who we believe are agents of Satan. They're kind of these minions. He said...
Is he suggesting that they're possessed, or are they willfully doing it?
I'm not sure. It's like a little from column A, a little from column B. Your first instinct would go, well, they're being controlled, but maybe not. Maybe they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I think to some point, right, you have to permit these things to possess you. You have to allow them to, make you do bad things.
He says they have occult hidden knowledge of Satan's work, and they are sent to harass and tempt these afflicted souls. And maybe to answer that question of, are they controlled themselves, these agents? He said one deranged young man came up to the church in the middle of the parish church and started shouting at them, saying, my master is not happy with what you're doing. That suggests that he's not, he might be possessed, but he's not like out of his mind. He knows what he's doing, right? My master is not happy with what you're doing. And they said when he came in, the church's PA system started to malfunction. The lights started to go on and off. There was all this electrical stuff going on. Similarly, Kathy was possessed. She too was being harassed by these agents. He says, for example, she had been clean from a cocaine addiction for quite some time, which was an important part of her getting over this possession. Then a young woman suddenly showed up at her place of work, someone she didn't know, someone she'd never seen before.
Do you want to buy a gram of coke?
Who, not even that, literally says to her, hey, you want to go do some coke? I've got some on me right now. Now, to her credit, this woman said, no, I can't. Like, she's obviously tempted. She says, I can't. And this woman walked up to her and put a bag of cocaine in her pocket and walked away. I was like, what is that? Who's doing that?
Yeah, who does that?
Some stranger?
Yeah.
The tempting woman, he said, had a tattoo on her neck of a serpent stretching up to her ear. And he's like, that's a little bit ironic. It's like a serpent literally whispering in this agent's ear. Moreover, in the area where Kathy lives, there are some satanic cults. Cult members have apparently been showing up at her apartment and harassing her. Although they've never met her previously, she doesn't know them. But they know for some reason or somehow they know that she's a special target. They know where she lives. They've been sent to harass and tempt her. At one point, they tried unsuccessfully to lure her into sex trafficking.
How does that happen?
Yeah, I don't see how that's a temptation. Wouldn't it be like, here's like a key of coke for free? Not like, do you want to be a whore? I don't see. Anyway, that's what they... he also says he gets text messages from demons.
Demons have cell plans?
Yeah. Like he'll get text messages and they'll say stuff like, it's not going to work, priest, you're going to die. Like just crazy stuff. He'll get it at 2 a.m. But when they next meet...
Geez, those Indian call centers are getting desperate, aren't they?
But when he says that they next meet the woman that's possessed or the guy that's possessed, they'll say like, oh, look, there's nothing in my phone records. Like there's no history of the text. Now they could have deleted it and it's not very convincing. But one of the friends of one of these people, a young woman that was going through exorcism, told the priest privately, look, the other night I saw her phone light up with no one touching it. It was on the floor next to her. I saw her phone light up and something just started texting. And the message was to you.
Well, I mean, when you described there that guy coming in and it affecting the PA system and the electricals of the church, one thing which is abundantly clear with these, like any types of spirits, right, and whether they're low-level entities or human spirits, it doesn't really matter, they seem to be able to affect electrical function.
Right.
So a phone is no different. Like we talk about telephone calls from the dead, where that's very positive, that kind of stuff. Like usually it's that these entities are trying to get in contact with the loved ones to let them know that they're okay. But it would work the same way for these entities. That'd be able to tap into a phone and essentially erase it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that for some reason I'm super skeptical of, just because it's such a modern age thing to get spooky thing to get a text from a ghost.
Yeah. But in saying that, like these demons, these entities move with the times. So they've always throughout, we go from like the Middle Ages text, for example, describing how the demon will present itself, on a lonely road to and appealing to, a lost traveler or something like that. We're in the modern world now. So what do? Well, they've just mutated themselves to respond to our modern world.
He actually makes the same argument you make in the book. He says, if they can affect the electrical world and the environment, as we're so often seeing, why not a phone sending a text?
Sure.
And then he gets to coughing up things, and it's boluses. Boluses always come out. Bolus.
Never heard of that. Isn't that weird?
Neither did I. So I looked it up, and immediately, that image was not meant to be there. That
image.
Do not.
That image you have been traumatizing me with all day. I keep deleting it when you send it.
Do not pause the YouTube video and go back to that moment where something else flashed up, because it is a horrific, unintentional Halloween curse. Yeah. So boluses are these things.
Gross.
They're these horrible...
Oh, they're normally in cows, are they?
They're these horrible balls. Like
a cattle thing.
A cow chews up so much grass, it turns into like a little cud ball. But these come out of people that are possessed. Ew. And it's like sputum and this weird black sludge.
That's actually like the other side of the coin of like saints and miracles, because isn't it with people that are, in miraculous states, they'll cough up, but it'll be like a golden kind of glitter substance, or they'll cry blood, or that kind of stuff.
He says all sorts of stuff have come up in exorcisms from people like coughing it up, nails, chains, demonic figurines, weird cursed objects. He claims even snakes. Now he says very explicitly
they're like a demonic Mary Poppins purse.
Yeah, these weren't in the person's stomach. Like they weren't in the patient. It's like they've been, what's the word?
They're manifesting.
But what's the like paranormal world, the word?
Apporting.
Yeah, they've been apported. Yeah. Thank you. They've been apported to the patient's mouth as they're coughing it out. The object will be vomited, they say, and will be related to the cause or the substance of their possession. There's one instance where this black liquid kept on being coughed up. And he's like, if that actually was in the victim's stomach, they would be dead. There's no way that amount of volume could come out of a human being. So there must have been like buckets and buckets of the stuff. He also talks about how sometimes substances and objects are excreted from other orifices.
Oh, perhaps like the haunted image that you displayed earlier.
Look, I didn't do that on purpose.
And I question you, Ben. I'm sorry. I normally implicitly trust you, but you have tried to subject that to me many times today.
I'll show you. Look, I'll show you the screen, and momentarily it'll show the old picture. Watch. See?
Okay, all right.
I'm not doing it on purpose. It just like when you change scenes on OBS, it just momentarily shows the old.
I guarantee you know what? We'll see like views for it from the podcast will go up on YouTube, because I guarantee you people are like, I want to see this image.
It was an Indian lady shitting. Not to be explicit or vulgar, but it is a Halloween special. He said perhaps the most intriguing item someone's coughed up in the exorcisms are little flowers.
Yes. Yep.
Said about a dozen little flowers.
But that normally comes from the other way as well. Like when people are, in some type of, it's normally in like religious ecstasy as well. Like if they have an expulsion of something, it will be flowers. Like, but normally stuff that's pretty and pleasant. Like obviously this is all very demonic and dark.
Yeah, but I mean, even like you go to the East and the so-called gurus, Like Sai Baba's the perfect example.
Yeah, throwing flowers.
He would always manifest like little trinkets and flowers and perfumed scents and,
the occasional molestation.
But he was like molesting everyone at the same time. Like obviously demonic. He's obviously evil. But this particular woman, they studied the flowers. They got them analyzed, and it was a West African plant. Wasn't from the United States. It was
that's a good example.
Oblongifolia or something, some kind of West African plant.
So it's not like, she's just gone out to the garden and hidden them in her pants and,
Well, she had a tattoo of a flower, not the same flower, but a flower on the inside of her thigh, on like a total thought place to get a tattoo. But when they probed the demon and asked it what the flowers meant, it was like, it's my seed. Yeah. Because the whole thing with her was all sexually driven.
Yeah.
They also said the tattoo on her leg of a flower turned out to be a huge demonic portal. Whenever we threw holy water on it, the demons would scream.
What?
I mean, that's really good advice for young people. Not only should you not get tattoos, they're just ugly and a cliche, don't get ones that are demonic portals.
How can you tell the difference?
It's on the menu when you order them, right? There's like a normal tattoos,
a list of demonic
portal tattoos.
Are they more expensive? Is there prestige with them?
Probably. He interviews one young guy who had a tattoo of a demon on his hip.
Well, that's probably not a good idea anyway.
Well, he said to the guy, he's like, why do you have a demon? Like, why did you get a tattoo of a demon? Because the guy was trying to live a pious life. He was a Christian. He's like, why have you got a demon? Why'd you get a demon tattoo? And the guy said, I thought it would make me a better person.
What?
Huh?
Why would that make you a better person?
That was his answer. Like, what? Anyway, so I want to talk about, I'm running out of time here, so I want to quickly mention one of these stories he has at the end. First of all, he's got this great, you got to get the book for this one, My Confrontation with Hell by Stephen Rossetti. He's got this woman, right? She gets infatuated with Tibetan Buddhism, and she has a guru. She actually gets ordained as a Tibetan nun, and she goes through everything. She lives in a monastery. She has a master, this Tibetan Lama. And,
a real one?
Well, we don't know. Like, I'd presume no, but maybe yes. I mean, we've done a bunch of shows on Tibetan Buddhism and its origins over the years.
Well, I'm thinking, like, did she travel to Lhasa and actually, meet someone, or is it that she met some guy at a local fair where he was like, hey, I'm a Tibetan guru?
It was in like downtown Oklahoma or something, the local Tibetan monastery there. No, it's this, what she thinks is a real genuine Tibetan Lama, and he takes her under his wing as his spiritual guru. And then he starts banging her.
Well, I almost pulled the joke of like, is he like a Thai jet flying monk? Is that where we're going?
For 4 years, he's having a sexual relationship with her. And she believes, and I think like ironically, rightly so, this is part of the practice. People don't know this about Tibetan Buddhism.
I know it gets
that's what the nuns do.
Yeah.
There's this is not known, this is not discussed openly, but many whistleblowers have come out and stated that, the nuns are there to provide like a sexual nectar to the cultivating monks. Like it is this idea of there's an energy exchange when they have sex, and they have this tantric practice. It's secret. It's done, it's not done openly, but it's a very real thing. And it sounds like, this is what was happening to her. She was giving the so-called nectar to this Lama. After about 4 years, she was like, I don't think I agree with this anymore. I don't think this is cool. And she got fully booted out by the organization.
Why? Because she's a dried up husk now.
Well, immediately after this, it's like a full-blown, I won't go into the full details. It's such a long story, but it's like a full-blown possession. And
after she leaves?
After she leaves.
Is it like they sick something on her?
So she's then approached by what she says are two leading gurus of this organization, of this Tibetan Buddhism organization, and they say, we're going to kill you. Like you can't speak about this. How dare you expose our master?
That's not very Buddhist.
And she starts having dreams and nightmares about this guru, and he starts communicating with her in her sleep. And again, very real, realer than a normal dream. And she starts to feel like palpitations around her heart. And in the dream, he's like squeezing her heart. And it all has all the hallmarks of demon brain that Rossetti explains earlier, where eventually this guru is like, because you've broken this pact between master and disciple, you're going to the deepest hell. You have no hope because we're casting you out. And her whole thing, it's like when she's talking eventually to Rossetti, she's like, I can't believe this is the Buddhism that I loved. Like, it's meant to be about compassion. And she's like so distraught that Buddhism became so evil. It's like, lady, this is not Buddhism. Like,
No.
these are demonic entities.
Yeah.
What you're doing has nothing to do with Buddhism.
Well, I mean, like, as we've, discussed previously, demons can infiltrate any religion and, pretend and masquerade as being that religion, but they're corrupting it.
And this is why we've been critical of Tibetan Buddhism explicitly in the past, because of its deep connections with the Bon shamanism, which is where all this kind of this stuff comes from, this energy exchange and commanding the spirits. And she talks about how, I was almost enlightened. I was so close to being enlightened, but then when I left the master because he was having sex with me, I failed, and now she feels like she's failed. And it gets to the point where he's trying to help her. Like Rossetti's trying to get her into church, and he does exorcisms with her. This is one of these cases that takes like 3 or 4 years, and she's still having issues. It gets to the point where she's like, she starts hearing snakes in her bedroom at night, like hisses and scratches, and this happens multiple times, like weird movements in the bedroom, shadow people, like all sorts of demonic activity. And she literally says, she's like proud because she says, I knew that I was activating my Kundalini.
No.
She's like, she's genuinely still thinks that she's just like a couple of hours meditation away from reaching full enlightenment and breaking away from this evil demonic curse of these Tibetan masters. It's really sad. Like, it's really, really sad. But the one I wanted to mention...
Can I just ask one thing? I know it's in the book, but did she get cured or did she get helped?
No. She gets help, but she doesn't get cured. By the end, she's saying, during the day, I am functional, but don't have control over my body. It feels like there is a very powerful balloon inside me, and he, being this Tibetan master, injects air into my anus, and my stomach blows up.
I'm sorry I asked. I'm sorry.
This is how you grind someone down, just like during the day, slowly. Psh, 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 psh. Just sorry to be crude about it. I have compassion for this woman. But very just slow, like a little bit. Psh, psh, psh.
Basically, it's like a day of like she's reverse farting and
what is that? And then a few minutes later, psh, 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 psh. Just bumping her up slowly, like the old Reeboks.
Yep.
That's terrible.
This
awful.
Is a serious
problem.
Terrible.
She says, I can feel the air coming in. I go to mass almost every day, say the rosary daily, and pray to Jesus often, asking him for help. But the guru is always there within my mind, or I am within his. Last night, she says, I woke up around 2 a.m. because I heard very loud knocking around my head. It sounded external, like someone was knocking on my window, but much closer. About an hour later, I fell asleep and saw the red demon several times, very close up, including her lashes, her outfits. She kept coming and going. So the red demon, it's worth mentioning because often behind these attacks, it's a female entity. And this demonic entity appears as like a goddess dressed in red, a makeup face, beautiful presentation, but it's a demon controlling her. Once she starts getting the exorcisms and seeing Rossetti, this demon in her dreams starts complaining that she's getting tired of the pain, which suggests that it's starting to work. That whatever Rossetti's doing, and ultimately it's up to the person themselves to let go of these things and turn to something that is actually orthodox and holy. But that entity is getting worn down. It is getting damaged and its control over her is waning.
Yeah, what point do they give up?
Exactly. Yeah. So it takes some time. The one I wanted to mention, if I've got time, I'll just mention this quickly. Maybe I'll finish it in the plus extension. But this woman said, as a child, I was baptized in the Catholic Church. In my early childhood, my mother and I went to a Catholic church nearby for Sunday Mass. But one day we just stopped going, she said. We just stopped going to church. When I was 4, my parents divorced. And she started to experience a lot of bullying at school. She often played on her own because children were just being mean to her.
That's sad.
But she said because of this, thoughts about another world, an other world, became quite appealing to me. She said, I remember walking alone in a small wood nearby to where I lived when a tree seemed to come alive. And I had the strong feeling that I could actually talk to it. I was around 7 or 8 at the time. And she said it was around this time I felt that something spiritual was trying to contact me. She said it was pushing softly on me as I was trying to sleep in the evening. She said, I remembered not liking it too much, but then I thought it might be one of my deceased ancestors, so I opened up to it just a little bit. She said, when I was around 12, my mother became interested in New Age spirituality. I'd also been quite interested in supernatural things and psychic phenomena for quite a while. I think I always had some sort of awareness of the spiritual world. I would often sense things and feel if the energy in a room was off or if there was something wrong about a person. Anyway, she said she went to university. She was supposed to study, but she ended up getting depressed. She said this had been lurking in my mind since that moment with the tree and that pushing of that spiritual presence, like something had been around from that moment. She said when I was 19, these depressions got worse. I couldn't concentrate when I was trying to study. It felt like something was attacking me with a sense of meaninglessness, a sense of emptiness. And isn't that an interesting concept of being attacked by nothing, by this feeling of nothing, like this nihilism, like a missile of nihilism.
Or a melancholy.
Right. She said, I didn't understand what was happening to me. I'd been very good at school, but she said all of a sudden I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't read properly. I'd read sentences over and over again. She said, I started to wonder whether I wanted to explore a more creative way of life. I believed I had been too much of a kind and obedient girl, and I needed to rebel against the status quo and against my parents. I thought that everything about society basically was wrong, and I started to defy my parents, thinking that everything they represented was like false and like boring. It was at this time I started to have strange experiences. For example, she said I was standing at a crossroads, literally at a crossroads near to where I live.
With the devil.
She suddenly hears a booming voice in her head. And it's not the devil at the crossroads. It doesn't seem that way because the voice is beckoning her to walk a straight and narrow path. The voice is telling her, don't take that other road. And she knew in her mind that the other road meant this kind of free, crazy, live creative lifestyle, right? It told me that I should continue to be prudent, to be a rational person, and not continue on the path of destruction. She said, I ignored this voice. I basically had 2 thoughts about it. She said, number 1, I must have imagined it. Or she said, number 2, that it was God's voice and he sounded like way too demanding and strict.
It's God.
She literally says that.
You know, I was just thinking though about how this can happen to some people because I don't think that there's goodness in everyone. I used to think that. But I do not think that at all anymore. I think that, there's a lot of people out there that really do have bad intentions. But stories like this of people like this, right? She's basically just been excluded and ostracized. And this is where these people fall through the cracks, right? I don't even think these demons, these negative entities, they're not targeting the bad people because the bad people are already doing it, right? They don't need to be controlled and pushed and to make. They're already doing it. They're just bad. But these are people that are left on the outer, they don't fit in with, because for whatever reason, and this is a failing of the church, like the whole point is supposed to be accepting and loving. And sometimes it becomes a clique and people are excluded. And so people like this, because they have been ostracized, but they still have goodness in them, it's like they've given this opportunity and they fall, they don't go down that path.
You're right. It's such an interesting case because she says that it reaches a point where she hears,
I feel bad for her.
She hears this voice again, and it's like the voice of a concerned father warning her against focusing on the artificial things, to come back to spirit and follow her true path. But she said it sounded like a concerned father, and I didn't want to listen. She says, I thought it sounded too much like the patriarchy. And so that gives you a clue as to
she's already being influenced.
How she's kind of been brainwashed as well.
Yeah.
And that is not disconnected from this phenomenon.
Of course it's not.
It's part and parcel. Like, the origin of the ideas behind the brainwashing likely comes from these entities. And that'll become apparent in the Plus extension. She said, at this point, I completely closed the door to my faith. But, and this is following on from what you said, Aaron, she said there was something I held on to. She says, I don't know why, but I always had this influence I felt from Mother Mary. She said, I discarded everything from the church, but for some reason, I felt like I needed to have this medallion of Mother Mary on it. And so she goes to this little store that sells these kinds of things. And she'd seen a Mother Mary medallion in that store weeks earlier. And she has this thought like, I'm going to leave all this stuff behind, but I'm going to hold on to Mother Mary. She doesn't understand why. She goes into the store. The Mother Mary medallion had sold the day before. It's gone. So instead, she buys a Buddha medallion. And there she starts to look at some New Age things. She buys a couple of New Age books and makes good friends with a woman who's very obsessed with the New Age. And she says, I started to buy into all these ideas. Slogans such as, it's all love. We are all one. This old Christian moralizing of black and white, this way of seeing things, that's nonsense, she said. There's no right or wrong. Ultimately, there's only love.
There's not, though. There's a naivety in that because we know that that's not the case.
And then she started practicing shamanism. And when we come back after the break, if you'll let me finish this story.
Sure, I'd love to hear it.
That's when the train wreck truly begins.
Really?
And it becomes an almighty train wreck. It's from Stephen Rossetti's book, My Confrontation with Hell, Real Demonic Encounters of an Exorcist. I'll link to it in the show notes. There he is on the screen there. And of course, if you're a medical practitioner, you might want to check out Thomas McCormack's Hidden Medicine. That's available as well. Just came out this week.
A collection of Halloween horrors coming up.
Yeah, what's coming up?
The Grim Reaper. Experiences that people claim to have had with the Grim Reaper. It actually ties into some also premonition sorts of stories. Then go into one of the most haunted experiences that a person can possibly have. So all of that is coming up in the Plus extension in a moment.
Spooky.
Very spooky.
Spooky.
Great.
I've got a spooky sound effect that goes for 2 minutes. I didn't realize it was so long.
Is that the one?
We'll play that one in Plus. Just 2 minutes of spooky sound effect. Yeah, good. Yeah, you spooked? Are you spooked?
A little. Just a little. Yeah.
All right, that's all coming up in Plus. If you want to get access to that, mysteriousuniverse.org/Plus. Sign up today. Help support your favorite show. Will we put up that mystery image in the show notes for Plus members?
No one needs to see it. No one needs to experience that. It's like, again, and Ben's like, why don't you delete it? I'm like, because I don't want to see it.
Yeah. It's in our chat and he keeps trying to delete it. It's in our Telegram chat.
Yeah, and it keeps like coming back.
I keep reposting it.
It's like,
it's Halloween.
Herpes.
It's Halloween, dude. It's a haunted image. Plans start at $5 a month, but you want to get on the MU Max plan. $15 a month gets you access to our entire back catalog going back years and years and years. You get the extensions of these shows every single Friday and, of course, access to our Plus shows that come out every single Tuesday. And, of course, if you sign up for Plus now, you'll get access to our new show coming in 2026 and the new MU starting at the end of this year in late December. So that's a wrap for this show. Check it out, mysteriousuniverse.org/Plus. Sign up today. If you're on Plus, stick around for the great stuff after the break. For everyone else, happy Halloween. We'll catch you next week.